Good morning, students. Today we are going to see a new topic in 8086 microprocessor, which is nothing but the assembly language programming. Which is nothing but the assembly language programming. So in the last class we covered I think our last 4 5 classes we covered the instruction set of the 8086 microprocessor. If you want the conclusion for that particular topic, what exactly the means when you are getting the question on the instruction set of the 8086 microprocessor, then how to write the answer for that particular question is a important point. So here what you are supposed to do in that case is, first you are supposed to define the instruction. You may get the question like this: define the instruction and explain the instruction set of the 8086 microprocessor. So at that time what you are supposed to do means, first you are supposed to define the instruction. We have seen the definition of the instruction, and after that you are supposed to say that the 8086 microprocessor instruction set is classified, um, or that is nothing but the divided into the following types: data transfer instructions, arithmetic instructions, bit manipulation instructions, and so on. You are supposed to list out all the instructions, and after that when you are going for exam point of view, if you are preparing the notes, you are supposed to prepare the notes for every instruction. But when you are going for the exam point of view, what you are supposed to do means, you are supposed to list out the list of instructions which comes under the data transfer. Like I'm just explaining only one type of instruction set, and same thing is going to be applicable to the rest of the scenarios. Okay, now. So first you are supposed to explain what exactly the data transfer instruction with this statement, and after that you are supposed to write 1 or 2 points regarding these particular data transfer instructions. Data transfer instructions means a set of instructions which moves the data between the registers and memory location and so on are called as a data transfer instructions, and these instructions will not affect any flags in flag register like that. And you are supposed to list out the example instructions which comes under the data transfer. So here, if you are taking the data transfer instruction, we are having the different types of instructions over here. We are having the different types of instructions: move instruction, push instruction, pop instruction, XCH, that is exchange instruction, translate instruction. All these things are there. Okay, now. So these instructions, you list out all these instructions and explain uh, 2 or 3 instructions. Okay, now. So during the explanation of the instruction set, we have seen each and every instruction explanation, but here what you are supposed to do means, you are supposed to list out all the instructions which comes under the data transfer, and explain 2 or 3 instructions. 2 or 3 instructions with examples. Means I'm going to take the move instruction, copies the source to the destination without changing the source value. uh, so syntax, you write the syntax: move space destination comma source. Under that example, move al comma bl. So bl content is copied into the al, like that you are supposed to explain. Okay, now. So means you are supposed to list out the examples. Only 2 or 3 instructions. Don't go for all the instructions. If you am going to the next kind of instructions, arithmetic instructions means, again you are explaining the definition. You are writing the definition. After that you are writing the certain rules and regulations, and after that you are coming across the addition, subtraction, multiplication, division. Okay, so in this set, you simply explain the add instruction with example what I explained during the instruction set: add destination comma source, which means destination is equals to the destination plus source. After that you are going to write that as it is going to affect all the conditional flags. And you just take one example like add space al comma bl, just like the previous one: al equals to the al plus bl. Okay, now. So means, what I mean to say that under each category try to explain 1 or 2 instructions. Okay, now 1 or 2 extra instructions. List out all the instructions and explain 1 or 2 or 3 instructions, not 1 or 2. It is going to be 2 or 3 instructions under each category, so that you can easily conclude your explanation in the exam in right manner. Okay, now. So don't try to explain all the instructions in your 8086 microprocessor textbook, whatever the instructions you are coming across and whatever the explanation we have seen during the instruction set of the 8086 microprocessor. Okay, now don't try to explain all the things. List out all the instructions comes under that category and explain 2 or 3 instructions in detail. Okay, now. So if you do that like that, it is going to be acceptable. Okay, so this is a conclusion of the instruction set which I missed out in the last class. So here in the today's class we are going to see about the assembly language programming. We are going to see about the assembly language programming. Okay, question comes that what exactly the assembly language programming? Question comes that what exactly assembly language programming? Okay, now. So here I think in 8085 microprocessor case, I don't know how many of you executed the 8086 microprocessor programs because it was in the middle of the semester. We faced the lockdown, so I don't know exactly that. But when you are writing the program, we are having the different types of languages. One is a high level language and assembly level language and the mission level language. Okay, now sometimes say that middle level language and the mission level language. Okay, so high level language means writing the program in the normal what we say the function calls, like writing the program using the C compiler. C compiler. When you are writing the program using the C compiler, what is happening is you are writing the program using the header files. All those things means you are not aware of the how exactly this particular high level language is converted into assembly level language from there to the machine level language. You are not aware of that. Okay, now. So that is called as a compiler. Means you are writing the program. Till now, I think if you are not means before the 8085, whatever the programs you have written, that may be the Java, that may be the C compiler or whatever it is, you are writing the program in the high level language. Okay, now. So when you are going to the microprocessor case, you are not going with the high level language, you are going to write the program in the assembly level language program format. Okay, now. So let me show you one thing. When you are taking the compiler, when you are taking the compiler, uh, you are having the high level language, or means when you are taking the compiler, you are writing the program in the high level language. And when you are taking the assembly language, assembler, not the compiler, assembler, then it is going to be the assembly language programming format. Means you are writing the program in the assembly level language, almost specific to the microprocessor. You are writing the program very specific to the microprocessor. But in case of the high level language, you are not writing the program in the specific to a particular microprocessor. You are simply using the compiler and you are writing the program, and the compiler is going to be takes the responsibility to convert your high level language to a particular microprocessor language level. Okay, now. So that is done by the compiler. Okay, now. But here in microprocessor case, when you are going to the microprocessor, then you are supposed to take the you are supposed to write your program in the assembly language format. You are supposed to write the program in the assembly level language format. So means assembly language format means you are supposed to write the program in the mnemonic format. You are supposed to write the program in the mnemonic format. Okay, so now when you are writing the program in the mnemonic format, and you would like to execute your program using one of the microprocessor. Let us suppose as you are aware of the 8085, for the explanation point of view, I am taking the 8085, but you can consider that one as the 8086, hoping that all of you would have seen certain programs in 8085. So that's why I'm taking the 8085. Otherwise you can take the 8086 also. No need to worry about whether we are considering the 8086 microprocessor or a 8085 microprocessor. Okay, now when you would like to write the program to perform the addition of a program using the 8085, so you are going to use the mnemonics like what is the transferring the what I mean to say that you are writing the program. Let us suppose I'm taking the 8086 only. Yeah, wait a minute. I'm taking the way 8086. Let us suppose you would like to perform the addition of one program, addition of two numbers. Then I'm simply taking the move al comma 0 to h followed by move bl comma 04h, and I'm simply performing the add operation between the al content and the bl content, and after that I'm terminating my program with the int 03h. Remember, int 03h is a termination of the program in 8086 microprocessor. Okay, now when you would like to execute this particular program using your 8085 microprocessor or the 8086 microprocessor. Okay, now so as we are not uh, having the lab facility now, so I'll consider even though I written the program for the 8086 microprocessor, so make it as a 8085. Okay, now otherwise let me take the explanation on this only. So here we are having simple program. I would like to execute this particular program. I would like to execute this particular program. When you would like to execute this particular program, and what you are supposed to do, you are going to write the program on the paper, and after that you are using the microprocessor kit, and you are trying to execute the program. But when you are using the microprocessor kit, the first rule is, obviously you are supposed to save your program. You are supposed to enter your program into the memory location. You are supposed to enter the program into the memory locations. Two types of executions are there. One is using the assembler, and another one is without using the assembler. So if you are, what exactly the assembler is a question, what the assembler is going to do is a question. Okay now, so here when you are not, let us suppose you are not having the assembler and you are having the kit directly, means you don't have any assembler inside the kit, and you are having the microprocessor kit directly. Then what you are supposed to do means, you are supposed to if you want to execute your program, you are supposed to note down the opcode of each instruction. You are supposed to know the means, calculate the opcode using the combinations we have in the opcode chart. Using that particular opcode chart, you are supposed to calculate the opcode for each and every instruction. Okay now, you are supposed to note down the opcode for each and every instruction. Let us suppose it is a 2 byte instruction. I am going to have the 2 bytes of opcode. I'm going to have the 2 bytes of opcode for this instruction, and here also I'm going to have the 2 bytes of opcode for this instruction, and here also I'm having the 1 byte instruction. It is going to be the 1 byte of opcode is going to be there. INT03H is also the 1 byte, so it is going to be the 1 byte opcode. Means you are first, you are writing the program, and you are trying to you are evaluating the opcode for each and every instruction. You are evaluating the opcode for each and every instruction. You are evaluating the opcode for each and every instruction. Okay now, so after that what you are doing is, you are taking this particular opcode and you are saving this particular opcode into the memory. You are saving this particular opcode into the memory. Okay now, so here, yeah, you are saving this one into the memory. Okay, so this is the format what we are having. Okay, so it is without using the assembler. If you are not having the assembler, you are supposed to write the program in the mnemonic format, that is the instruction format, and calculate the opcode for each and every instruction, and save that particular what is that, save that particular opcode into the memory. Save that particular opcode into the memory, and save that particular opcode into the memory, and give the starting address of your program to the microprocessor, so that it is going to be executes the program. Okay now, so here the conflict is, when you are having the 4-5 lines of program, it is very easy for you. If you are having the let us suppose 20 lines program and the 50 lines program, and you are trying to execute that particular program. Okay now, you are trying to execute that particular program using the microprocessor, then what you are supposed to do means, every time you are supposed to write the program, you are supposed to calculate the output for that particular output for each and every instruction of that particular program, and save that one in the sequential order inside the memory, and give the starting address. So what will happen when we are having this kind of scenario is, if it is a 4-5 lines program, then we can easily evaluate the opcode, and we can save that particular opcode into the memory. But if it is a 20 lines program or the 50 lines program, it is very difficult for you to calculate. Means you can calculate the opcode, but what is the difficult part is, when you are trying to save this particular opcode into the memory. So as I said, mnemonic should be converted into the opcode format. Opcode should be saved into the memory, and you are supposed to give the starting address of this particular opcode and to the microprocessor, so that it is going to execute the program. Now the critical part is, once you evaluated equivalent opcode for each and every mnemonic, that is nothing but the instruction. Once you evaluate the equivalent opcode for each and every instruction, you are supposed to save that particular opcode into the memory in the sequential order. So here are some way you may do some mistakes when entering the opcode into the memory. Here are some way you may do the mistake. So if you are doing the mistake and trying to execute that program, obviously you are not going to get the result. At that time, what you are supposed to do, again you are supposed to resubmit your, that is the resave your or reload your opcode into the memory from the starting instruction, from the starting instruction of your program. Okay now, it is very difficult for you. It is very difficult for you. Okay now, means when you are evaluating the output separately and storing that information into the memory, means it is very difficult for you when saving the program in the opcode format into the memory. So to avoid all this conflict, okay, now all this conflict, what we are going to do means we are going to use the assembler. We are going to use the assembler. Okay, we are going to use the assembler. Okay, so what exactly the assembler will do is a question. So here, whatever the process we are doing in the 3 steps format to get execute your program by the microprocessor, instead of doing all these 3 steps, we are simply writing the program in the mnemonic format, and the assembler is the one which is going to be takes care of converting, means evaluating the opcode for each and every instruction. And when you are using the assembler, you are giving the starting address. So from there onwards, it is going to be converts your program into the opcode format and executes the program. Okay, now no need to means manually, no need to evaluate the opcode for each and every instruction and store that one into the memory. It is not like that. If you are taking the assembler is the one which is going to be takes the mnemonic program in the mnemonic format, and it will convert the opcode the your mnemonic program into the opcode format and executes that particular program. That is going to be done by the assembler. Okay, now so here no need to worry about whether we saved our opcode in the sequential order in the memory inside the memory or not. Okay, now okay, so no need to bother about that one in this case. Okay, so that is the benefit of assembler. But if you are writing the program using the compiler, then you are for example, if you are writing the program using the turbo C compiler, then you are directly writing the program in the high level language, not in the what is that middle level language or in the machine level language. Okay, now but here we are not writing the program in the high level language, we are writing the program in the middle level language, which is nothing but the assembly language program. So if you are writing the program in the form of the mnemonic, then it is called as a assembly level language program. And we are writing the program in the assembly level language, and we are giving that information to the assembler, so that the assembler is going to be execute your program which is saved inside the memory by converting your program into the opcode format. It is going to be done by automatically. It is going to be done by the means conversion of the mnemonic into the opcode format is going to be done by the assembler. Okay, so that is the beauty of the assembler. Okay, now when you would like to execute the program, your microprocessor program using the assembler, obviously you are supposed to have the personal computer followed by the assembler. So in the market we are having the different types of assemblers. You may take your own personal computer and make use of any one of these You are having the TASM. TASM is a assembler which is called as a turbo assembler. TASM is a turbo assembler which is developed by the Borland International. And this particular assembler is the one which is going to be takes the responsibility to accept the program in the assembly level language and execute that program. Okay, now so what we have seen in the previous case, we are taking the mnemonic and converting that one into the output format, and after that we are saving that one into the memory and executing the program. So all those operations are going to be done by the TASM assembler, which is going to be there, which is designed by the Borland International. And we have one more assembler called as a MASM. MASM is nothing but macro assembler. um, MASM is nothing but it is going to be the macro assembler. Okay, now so macro assembler is one which is developed by the Microsoft International. It is going to be it is developed by the Microsoft Corporation. So MASM is a assembler, one kind of assembler which is developed by the Microsoft Corporation. And we have one more, means different types of assemblers are there in the market. We are seeing only the few. So one more assembler is there, which is the Assembler 86 developed by the Intel. So these are the 3 different types of assemblers which are there. Means more than these 3, we are having the different types of assemblers. But as per our textbook, we are simply going through some list of assemblers which are there in the market. Okay, so out of these 3, we are focusing on the MASM. MASM is nothing but it is a macro assembler. MASM is nothing but which is a macro assembler what is that? This tool is developed by the Microsoft Corporation. It is developed by the Microsoft Corporation. Okay. So whatever the programs which is there in our 8086 microprocessor textbook, Sima, the reference copy for this one is a author is Mathivanan textbook, which is there in your PDF document. Okay, na? So which is there in your PDF document. I'll use the what is that snapshot of all the papers, all the topics which we covered till now. I'll give those topics in the document format. Okay, now today or tomorrow I'm going to do that one. So here, whatever the programs which are there in our textbook, they are written using the MASM assembler. Now let us go for how exactly the assemblers, whatever the assembler we are having, that may be the TASM or the MASM or the ASM, how exactly that assembler is going to be execute your program is a question. Okay, now how exactly that assembler, a particular assembler, is going to be execute your program is a question. Okay, now so that thing means what are the parts which are participating, what are the things which are participating in your assembler to execute your program is a question. So that name is called as a program development tools. What are the tools which are there in your assembler and how those tools are going to be used by the assembler to execute your program successfully, one is called as a editor block. Editor is nothing but it is simply any kind of what is that open window where we can type the program. For example, I'm going to take one window. I'm just taking it is a editor window, means the area where we can type the program and save the program. Where we can type the program and save the program is called as an editor window. So simply let me take one thing. So this is my window where I can type my program and save my program. Okay, now. So obviously, whatever the what is that window recording I'm doing, it is not going to save file. But if you want to know that one, you can take any kind of what is that editor tool. So when you are taking the MASM software, when you are taking the MASM assembler, you are having the one window that is nothing but the editor window, that is called as the editor window. You, if you are taking one notepad document and typing the program and saving the program, that is also one of the editor window. If you are taking the MS Word, that is also one of the editor window. But editor window should accept, editor window is the area where we are typing our program and saving that particular program with some extension. Okay, now so previously you would have used the extension which is a .c for the C program, .cpp for the .c++ for the what is the turbo C turbo C++. Okay, so means when you are writing the program in one language, if you are taking the C language, the extension is going to be the .c in simple format. Here we are writing the program in the assembly language program, so that's why you are supposed to type your program and save the program with the .asm extension. So editor window is nothing but the area where we can type our program. For example, I'm going to type the program over here. uh, just take move comma 04 h and move bl comma 02 h add. I'm simply taking one example, that's it, int 03 h. So this is the way of typing the program. Means this is the area where I'm typing my program, and you are supposed to save this particular program with your file name. With your file name means I'm going to take my file name is I'm assuming that it is the addition program now, so I'm simply taking the addition. I'm going to save my program with the addition.asm. So means you are supposed to write your program, type your program in the editor window, save your program with the .asm extension. Save your program with the .asm. So this is the extension. So assemblers are accepting the program, your program, which are having the .asm extension, So here in the editor window, you are typing the program in the assembly language format, and you are saving that program with your file name. This file name may be specific to your own interest. Okay, so .asm, and this file name should follow the extension which is a .asm extension. Okay, so this is the editor block. So this is a editor block. Okay, so the next one is a assembler block. Assembler block is nothing but whatever the file you saved in the editor block with the extension .asm, that file means the assembler is accepting the asm extension file. Okay, now so what I mean to say that, let me take the window. uh, so I'm going to elaborate this explanation with the boxes. Sorry. So another box. So assume that this is the editor is a number one, assembler is a number two, linker is a number three, locator is a number four, and debugger is a number five. So here I'm just taking the number. So I'm just taking the number one. So here you took first step is editor window. You saved the file over here. You saved the file with extension dot asm, with the extension .asm, with the extension .asm. Okay, now you typed the program and you saved. I'm not writing the file name over here. You can write your own file name, but I'm just taking the extension. So this extension .asm file is there now. This file should be given as an input to the, should be given as an input to the assembler. It should be given as an input to the next level block called as an assembler. So assembler is nothing but number 2. I'm simply taking the numerical value. So it is going to be the number 2. Okay, it is going to be the number 2. Okay, so number 2. So number 2 is accepting the program in the .asm extension. What this part, number 2 is nothing but what? Assembler. What exactly the assembler is doing? When it is accepting the input file with the extension of .asm, what exactly this assembler is doing is a question. So this assembler is accepting the .asm file in the mnemonic format, that is a assembly language program, as an input, and it is creating two more files with two different extensions. It is creating two more files with two different extensions. Okay, so this one is creating two different files. It is creating two different files with two different extensions. Okay, now so one file extension is, it is creating two files now. One file extension is .obj. File name is not changing. If you want a more specific one, I'm going to take, my file name is f1. f1.asm is my file name. f1.asm my file name, and this assembler is converting your f1.asm file, accepting the input file as an f1.asm and creating two extension files. Two extension files. Two files with two different extensions. F1.obj, and another file is going to be the another file. File name is not changing. f1.lst. f1.lst. Okay, now so what exactly the f1.obj contains is a question. Why we are supposed to have the two different files and with the two different extensions? File name is same, but with the two different extensions, two files are going to be created by the assembler. So one file is a f1.obj and another file extension is a .lst. obj is the one, this file is including the showing the program with the opcodes and the addresses. Means for each and every instruction it is going to be creates the equivalent opcode. It is going to, this file is going to be list out, this file is going to be list out your opcode along with the addresses, opcode along with the addresses. Okay, so that is a f1 file. But here in case of the that is a obj file, .obj file. But in case of the .lst file, what it is going to be shows means, it is going to be shows addresses to your program, assembly, that is a mnemonic format and the opcode format. For example, I'm just taking, so I'm just showing the .lst file format. I'm just showing the dot lst, what exactly the dot lst includes. Okay, I'm going to take no, it's like, otherwise I'll take the red for differentiating it is okay. So dot lst file, what it includes means it includes the address. For example, I loaded my program from the 3000h memory location, so it's going to be the 3000h. No, yeah, what exactly the data list is contained, I'll show that one in the separate window. If I'm going to erase this one, we are going to lose everything over here. So data list file contains, just remember in one shot, it is going to be contains the address, mnemonic, specific to that one, it is going to be the opcode, actually opcode to each and every instruction, and mnemonic. So three things are there. So for you are writing the program, previously we written one program, addition program. Now there we are writing the program in the mnemonic format. We are writing the program in the mnemonic format, right? We are writing the program in the mnemonic format. But the data list, the assembler is the one. What it is going to do means your mnemonic format program is converted into the address, opcode, and the mnemonic format, which is going to be listed out in the .lst file format. It is going to be listed out in the .lst format. Okay. So .lst file is the one which is listing your program in the address, opcode, mnemonic format. Address, opcode, mnemonic format. So that is the advantage of the .lst file. Now the question comes that what is the use of the .lst file? What is the use of the .lst file? See ma, when you are writing the program, if you are writing a 10 lines of program, then finding the error. If you are writing the 10 lines of program and here are somewhere you made the mistake when you are typing the program, then you can easily identify the location of the error. But if you are writing the program whose length is a 100 lines program or the 1000 lines program, 100 lines program or the 1000 lines program, then identifying the location of the error is very difficult. Identifying the location of the error which, is very difficult. So assembler is the one which is creating the data list file na. So if at all your file is having any error, if at all your file is having any error, and you would like to know the location of the error, where exactly the error is occurred, then simply visit the data list file which is created by the assembler. So data list file is the one which is going to be highlights the errors which are there in your program, which is going to be highlights the errors which are there in your program. And .obj file, what exactly the .obj contains means .obj contains only the .obj contains, this file contains only the address and the opcode. It is not listing out the mnemonic, but data list file contain shows the mnemonic, opcode as well as the addresses. That is the advantage of the data list file. So data list file is going to be used by the developer in order to cross check if at all there is an error during the execution of the program. Okay now. So we are having the means the assembler is the one which is taking the .asm file and creating the two files now, f1.obj and f1.lst. Okay now. So we are having the .obj file now. Now this .obj file is given as an input to the next level. It is given as an input to the next level. So this .obj file is given as an input to the next level called as a linker. Okay, so means number 3. So the assembler is going to be gives the created file .obj file as an input to the linker. Data list is not going to be used by the linker, but only the .obj is going to be accepted by the linker. Okay, now means the files which are there in the object format, they are going to be given as an input to the linker. So this linker is accepting the files from different modules. Okay now. So means we are having the f1.obj. Let us suppose I'm having one more file with the extension with the .obj extension only, but I'm assuming it is a file name is a f2.obj. Means the linker is the one which is accepting the different .obj files, and linking all the .obj files together as a one program, linking all the .obj files together as one program, Now the question comes that why we are supposed to have the different .obj files, okay now. So actually we are writing only one file whose name is the f1.asm, and we are expecting the f1.obj only, but what we are having the f2.obj is a question, means other files with the different .obj extensions. Why we require is a question. So here different explanation is there, but let me take one simple example of your C program. Okay now, in C program what you are having the header file statements, that is the hash include stdio.h, hash include conio.h, math.h, and all those things you are having, right? So you are simply writing the header files. After that you are starting the main function. After that you are going to make use of the predefined files, predefined functions, actually predefined functions like printf, scanf, all those things. Actually when you are taking a function, you are having the three steps: function declaration, function definition, function calling. But in your C program you are simply calling the printf function. Now the question comes that where exactly the printf function declaration, where exactly the printf function definition is a question. So that particular printf function definition as well as the declaration is there in the stdio.h header file. It is there in the stdio.h header file. So when you are taking the C program, you are having the header files now. Without knowing to you, for each and every header file, we are having the .obj file. For each and every header file, we are having the .obj. Means that particular header file is including the all the predefined functions. What we say, the declaration part as well as the definition part. But in the main program, in the wide main instruction program, we are simply calling the printf function. We are simply writing the printf and so on. Okay, now, but means printf and so on means we are simply calling the printf function. We are not declaring the printf function. We are not defining the printf function. Okay, now. So that declaration and the definition of the printf function is there in the stdio.h header file. So that header file is having the .obj file. Okay, now. So if you are not, let us suppose you are executing your program. If you are not having the f2.obj, means if you are not including the function2.obj file like header file, object file, .obj file, header file, which is there in the obj format. If you are not including that one, then trying to execute the f1 is not going to be done. Because you are not having the printf function declaration part as well as the definition part, that is there in the header file, and that format is there in the .obj. If it is not included, then your program is not going to be executed, because if you are taking only the f1.obj, your file only, and you are not considering the header files, then definitely the linker, the assembler will come across a error saying that you are not having any function definition for the printf. You are not having any function definition for the printf. To overcome that one, what you are supposed to do means you are supposed to means the linker is a one. It is going to be done automatically by the linker. It is going to be done automatically by the linker. So the linker is the one which is going to be accepts your .obj file along with the predefined .obj files. What are the object files which are required to execute your program? This is a one way of explanation. And another way of explanation is nothing but when you are trying to develop one application, you are supposed to have the means that application is divided into multiple modules. For example, you are trying to design one application for a particular college. Let us take our college only. So you are trying to develop one application for our college. Then obviously in our college, what you are going to do means what the developer is going to do. When you are expecting the application for your college, the developer is good to be divide your requirement, that is the application. One application, which is the college application, is divided into different blocks. One is a principal block, another one is a staff block, another one is a heads of the departments block, another one is a student block, another one is a administrative block. So as we are having the different blocks in a particular application, each block is going to be developed as a separate program. I'm simply giving one example. Each block is going to be developed individually. Means I'm going to write one program for the principal. What are the things the principal having, and what features we are supposed to add the principal, that is there in the block 1. In the block 2, I'm going to write the information related to the I'm going to write another program, second program for heads of the departments, and I'm going to write the third program for the staff who are there in the college, and I'm going to write the separate program for the what is that, students. I'm going to write the separate program for the administration. Okay, so these are the individual blocks. Means the developing team is dividing your application into different blocks, and each block is developed individually by the development teams. Means I'm going to have the let us suppose we are having the 5 blocks now. I'm going to take the different 5 developers, and each developer is developing one block. Okay, but if you want from one application, all blocks should be get together. Okay, means all blocks should be integrated and finally shown as a one block. Okay, now finally shown as a one block, which is nothing but the application which is developed for a particular college. Okay, now for a particular college. So means the individual blocks which are developed, all those blocks are there in the obj files. All those blocks are there in the .obj files. Means each developer is writing its own program for a particular block, and creating the .obj file for the principal, .obj file for the staff, .obj file for the heads of the department, and so on. Okay, and they should be linked together in order to form one application. So that is going to be done by the linker. Means linker is a one which is accepting the multiple .obj files, linking them together and forming one application. Okay, now so this linker is the one which is accepting multiple .obj files and creating one file with the extension .exe, which is called as a executable file with extension .exe. Let me take this one other way, because we need one more point. Okay, so it is creating one file called as a .exe file at the output. So this is a linker block. So I'm just giving this one as a number 3. Okay, so after that .exe file is given as an input to the another block called as a locator. I'm simply using the number 4 for this. Sorry, I'm not having the sufficient length. Okay, I'll take separately this one. Okay, don't worry about it. Locator. The next block is a locator. The locator is accepting your .exe file, and it is going to be mapping your program. I'm just taking this side. It is going to be mapping your program into the memory by assigning the relative addresses. What exactly the relative address? What exactly the absolute address? We have one more address called as a absolute address. Relative address is nothing but it is giving the the virtual addresses in simple format. Absolute addresses are nothing but the physical addresses, physically which are there in the memory. Relative addresses are nothing but the virtual addresses which are going to be assigned by the locator. Okay, the locator the locator is the one which is going to be assigns the relative addresses. Okay, it is assigning the relative addresses, not the physical addresses. It is assigning the relative addresses, not the physical addresses. No. Okay, so locator, locator is a one which is mapping your program into the into the memory. So it is actually the physical address. The linker, we are having the linker now. So the linker is the one which is linking the .obj files and assigning the relative addresses. This block, third block, is assigning the relative addresses. I'm sorry, it is integrating all the .obj files and assigning the relative addresses. It is assigning the relative addresses. Now the locator is a one which is going to be which is accepting the information in the .exe format by using one program. Means each and every block is one program. Okay, now each and every block is one program. Okay, if you are getting at this, we are having the different blocks. That's it. Okay, now so here the linker block is linking all the .obj files and assigning the relative addresses to your program. Okay, now The locator is the one which is converting your .exe file into the binary format. We are having one, it is converting your .exe file into the dot binary format, dot bin format. Yeah. It is converting your exe file into the dot bin format, binary format. So if you want more specific, dot bin. So all are small. We took the small now. So let me take the small bin file. So this one, this locator is going to be converts your relative addresses into the physical address format. That is the absolute address. Okay, now, which is converting your relative addresses assigned by the locator into the what we say, the absolute addresses. Absolute addresses are the physical addresses which are actually there in the memory. Absolute address which is assigned by the locator. Okay, now, absolute address which is assigned by the locator. And finally we are having the debugger. I'm going to take a separate window for this one in the next class. I'm going to take the separate window uh, to conclude this one in the next class. Okay, so debugger is the one which is going to be debugs the information. Okay, now we'll continue the debugger in the next session. Okay, so we'll stop over here. I think the video is exceeding. uh, okay, we'll stop here. Okay, debugger, about the debugger we'll see in the next class. And I'm going to list out this one in the neat blocks format. Okay, so just remember that editor window means where we are is typing the program and saving the program with the .sm file, and assembler is the one which is converting your file into the .obj file and the .lst file. .lst file is useful to the developer to identify the errors occurrence, and after that the .obj file is given as an input to the next level called as a linker. Sorry, yeah, it is assembler creating the two files with the two different extensions, .obj and .obj and .lst, and the .obj files are going to be accepted by the linker and linking all the files together. And when it is linking all the .obj files, it is assigning the relative addresses. And after that we are having the dot the locator which is sorry, linker is creating the .exe file extension, and the locator is converting the .exe file into the .bin file. It is converting the exe file into the .bin file, and it is sending the absolute addresses to your program. Absolute addresses are nothing but the physical addresses which are there in your memory. Okay, so debugger means to debug the program. When we are having the errors, if you are writing the 1,000 lines of program, then we are going to use the debugger is the one which is going to be splits your program into the blocks. Let us suppose for that I'll take the next video. Okay, so we need more time for the debugger. I can explain that one. So I'll take the another video. So that's all for today's class. We'll continue in the next class with the debugger and a diagram. Okay, so if you have any queries regarding this, you can uh, post your request in the WhatsApp. Okay, if you're having any doubts.